What is up, DW Nation? After a great pay-per-view at Double or Nothing, there was big things that happened. We have ourselves a new crowning champion, AEW. We have two wrestlers that made debuts last night, and Sting! And with that, of course, phenomenal wrestling. So without further ado, I'm Kevin Jones, the Disciples of Wrestling, and let's hop into it. So we start off Double or Nothing in the buy-in, and it is for the NWA Women's Championship, the challenger Rio versus the champion Serena Deeb. Now throughout this match, we see from the beginning Serena Deeb working as a heel. When Rio goes for a handshake, Serena Deeb takes a sign to really just soak up the momentum. Soak up the air of fans being back in a sold-out Daily's Place. And inevitably, she ends up slapping Rio right in the face. Rio spends a lot of this match just trying to build consecutive momentum, but this was overall taken over by Serena Deeb that just showed her why she is the female with 1,000 holds. And she ends up getting the win with her self-named finisher, the Serena Lock, for a successful title retention. Our next match, we actually have the first match of Double or Nothing, the official pay-per-view, where it is Hangman Adam Page versus the Machine, Brian Cage, with Taz on commentary. And these guys just start off fast and furious. Brian Cage has the momentum starting off. We even see him powerbomb Hangman Page into the ring post on the outside. But a top rope moonsault to the outside and a nice top rope Hurricane Rana ends up getting the momentum back to Hangman Page. Now, inevitably, we actually see these two just go back and forth throughout this entirety of this match. And we even see these two both try to steal each other's moves, finishing moves, where we see Brian Cage try to go for the buckshot lariat, and we try to see Adam Page successfully hit the F5 on Brian. But inevitably, what ends up happening is Ricky Starks and Hook end up coming out to try to help Cage, but Cage declines. And we actually see Cage and Hook end up getting to a word-on-word disagreement where it actually sets up Hangman Page for a buckshot lariat for a pinfall victory over Brian Cage. Our third match of the night, it is the Young Bucks versus Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And we start this thing off fast and furious also because we go straight into a brawl at the end of the Young Bucks' entrance where we see Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley go after the Bucks. They end up brawling everywhere, through the crowd and on the outside of the ring, where Mox and Eddie end up taking out even Brandon Cutler. And then, of course, we start the match, but it is, of course, the Young Bucks that end up zeroing out Kingston and just keeping Mox out of the match in the beginning. But when Mox gets in the ring, he runs wild. We even see the Good Brothers come out and they try to get some distraction to where the Bucks can get back in the control of the match. But we see Eddie Kingston take out Doc Gallows, and we see Frankie Kazarian run from the crowd to take out Carl Anderson at the ramp. Now, when Jon Moxley turns around, we actually see Matt Jackson spray hairspray right in his face, and we see him inevitably get set up on a Meltzer driver to the outside on the entrance ramp. Now, this is when the tide shifts in this match because Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley give the Young Bucks the fight of their lives. But what ends up happening, we actually see a paradigm shift for a near fall. We see a doomsday device for a near fall. And we see Eddie Kingston run wild and Jon Moxley refusing to go down. Now, inevitably, we see four consecutive BTE triggers that ends up taking Jon Moxley out for the Young Bucks to successfully retain their AEW World Tag Team Championships. Now it is time for the Casino Battle Royal, where the winner gets an AEW Championship shot in the future. Now we start off with the clubs, and it's all veterans with Powerhouse Hobbs from Team Taz, and Max Caster from The Acclaimed. Next up, we have the Diamonds right after them with the up-and-comers. A lot of these guys came from factions, and also with, of course, from the HFO, Mr. Matt Hardy himself. Then we have the Hearts, and it is the Varsity Blondes, Colt Cabana. We also see ourselves Penta, El Zero Miedo, and the Joker attire. And we also get Anthony Bowens of The Acclaimed. In the last suit, the Spades, our Jungle Boy Jack Perry. We see ourselves Evil Uno of the Dark Order. We see also Aaron Solo, and we also see ourselves Mr. Mark Quinn of HFO. Joker is the debuting the man of the hour. I mean, how else can I say his name and describe him? It is Lio Rush making his AEW debut. And of course, now, majority of this match, now that I said everybody, I'm about to dive into the match. Where a lot of this match, we actually see the Hardy family organization. We see the Private Party and Matt Hardy really run the ring for majority of this match. And this is all up until we see Powerhouse Hobbs, after he was taken out with the kill switch. We see him get back in the ring, and he ends up clearing out HFO. But Christian Cage eventually comes back in, and he ends up eliminating Powerhouse Hobbs himself. Now, we end up getting down to Lio Rush coming out, and he ends up looking strong against the HFO, all up until the numbers game ends up catching up to him, where he was eliminated by the Hardy family organization. Now we're down to, of course, Christian Cage and Jack Perry, and they take out the whole HFO themselves. Now we're down to these two, and Jack Perry, he is giving Christian everything and the kitchen sink. And this eventually ends up working out for Mr. Jungle Boy, as, of course, he was looking to go and attack the midsection of Christian Cage from the outside through the middle rope. Christian hops up to look to reverse this, but Jack Perry ends up back body dropping him to the outside of the ring. And our winner of the Casino Battle Royale, it is Jungle Boy Jack Perry. So in 2 weeks' time, Jungle Boy will be challenging whoever the AEW champion is after this triple threat match in 2 weeks. And now we have ourselves the match of Great Britain, the UK, England, however you want to describe that side of across the waters, against the American Dream. We see Cody Rhodes repping and tributing his dad, and we see, of course, him going up against the up-and-comer, Mr. Anthony Ogogo. And this starts off with power moves after power moves, and very, very quickly, we see Cody Rhodes' ribs get bothered with a body blow from Anthony Ogogo, and we actually see Anthony's right arm get targeted as Cody caught one of his right hooks, and he ends up going for an arm bar standing up. Now, we actually see the Anthony Ogogo overwhelm Cody for majority of this match with power move after power move after power move. But what took was a right laceration on the right side of the hairline, I would say, of Anthony Ogogo, where the blood ended up trickling down into his right eye, and Cody ends up getting back into this match. Now, Anthony had a phenomenal showing in his first real match in AEW, but the experience of Cody Rhodes kicked in, and he hits a vertebreaker to end up beating Anthony Ogogo. And now for the TNT Championship, we have the challenger Lance Archer versus Miro, the TNT champion. And this starts off fast and furious. It's my favorite line throughout this video. But it does when we go straight into a brawl when Lance Archer just launches himself at Miro on the entrance ramp. And then we see these two finally get into the ring where the match starts, and it is a completely even match. Like, literally, my comparison is Godzilla versus King Kong. We see, of course, Miro being Godzilla and Lance Archer being King Kong. And then we see these two just go back and forth for majority of this match, all up until Jake the Snake Roberts comes out, and he's looking to distract Miro when he brings out the snake in the sack. And, of course, we see Miro yoke up Jake the Snake, and he throws and launches this thing, the sack of the snake, into the crowd area. And then we see, as soon as he's looking to go right after Jake the Snake to take him out, we see Lance Archer end up intercepting this with a huge choke slam on Miro. Now, this, of course, ends up being Lance Archer's match, all up until when he looks to get back into the ring after some outside action. We see Miro kick the middle rope to low blow at Lance Archer, setting him up for a super kick, then into the game over submission lock, where he ends up kneeing Lance Archer's spine numerous times to lock in the submission and make Lance Archer pass out in the victory. Now, a little bit of background on why he need Lance Archer in the spine. Lance Archer had reconstruction surgery a little ways back to the spine because of some severe work that needed to be done. And of course, this came back when he ends up re-aggravating it when Miro knees him in the spine. And of course, this ends up being a win for Miro and a successful retention of the TNT Championship. One of my favorite matches of the night. And this was for the AEW Women's Championship. And it was the challenger, the Dr. DMD, Miss Britt Baker, versus the AEW World Women's Champion. And that is Hikaru Shida. Now, this starts off and is a hold-for-hold feeling out process that is won by Hikaru Shida. And then this ends up getting switched over in the tide when Britt Baker ends up countering Hikaru Shida on the outside with a spinning kick. Now, Shida ends up getting worked over throughout some of this match, a good portion, where Britt Baker ends up slowing down the action. But Hikaru Shida gets back into this with 3 consecutive knee strikes. But what ends up happening, a nice little sling blade, an air raider, and an attempt for a lockjaw ends up getting Britt some great momentum going in. Now, we end up seeing Reba, or Rebel, end up getting thrown out from ringside for getting involved way too much. But the distraction was enough time for Britt Baker to bring in the AEW Women's Championship belt and to hit the curb stomp on Hikaru Shida in the middle of the ring. Now, the ref ends up going for the count, and this was for a near fall. Then we see Hikaru Shida build up momentum and hit the Tama-Eid, and this was also for a near fall. Now these two go back and forth, and eventually Britt Baker locks in the lockjaw, and it is a submission victory for Britt Baker, and she is now the new AEW Women's Champion. So our next match is a tag team match, and it is the Icon Sting and Darby Allin versus Scorpio Sky and All Ego Ethan Page. And this starts off with Darby Allin launching his body at these guys. Then we end up seeing a brawl break loose where we end up seeing Scorpio Sky hit a suplex on Sting on the entranceway. Now this is scary because Sting hasn't had a match officially in 6 years. But Sting pops right back up, takes off the long sleeve shirt after he throws Scorpio Sky off the entranceway and hits a nice cross body on Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, and he is pumped up. Now we start off this match. And of course, Sting and Darby Allin are in control using some nice tag team cohesion. Now, Darby ends up getting his leg swept off of the top rope when he was looking for a springboard on Scorpio Sky. And after this happens, Darby Allin is worked for majority of this match. We even see Ethan Page taking Darby Allin and throwing him into the crowd area on top of his brothers. Now, eventually we see Darby Allin get enough energy and fight off these two enough to where he can tag in Sting, and Sting runs wild. He takes out Sky and Page, and we even see a part of this match where Aubrey Edwards has to break things up because we see Scorpio Sky lock in the knee bar on Darby Allin, and we see the Scorpion Deathlock from Sting locked in on Ethan Page. Now, the problem with this was the fact that Sky and Sting weren't legal. Now we see these two end up brawling, which is Ethan Page and Darby Allin, and eventually they see Sting and Scorpio Sky get tagged back in, and of course Sting runs wild again. And after a few holds, we see Sting reverse Scorpio Sky into the Scorpion Death Drop, and he gets the pinfall victory for his tag team. Now, it is time for the three-way dance for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. It is the champion Kenny Omega, the Bout Machine, versus Pac, and also versus freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. Now, with this match, we actually saw Orange Cassidy get targeted early by these two because they feel like Orange Cassidy shouldn't be in this match. But OC ends up coming in and he knocks out both of these guys, taking momentum. Now, of course, Pac does a really good job throughout this match of picking his spots and making sure he is in this match and taking control. Even doing the smart thing of taking out Kenny Omega and focusing on Orange Cassidy to try to get the victory to become the AEW World Champion. Now, eventually, we end up seeing Omega get back in this match where he ends up taking control of both of these guys for a good portion. All up until we see the crowd get behind Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy goes crazy. He hits 2 orange punches on Kenny Omega and on Pac, where we actually see a very, very scared Don Callis come down when Orange Cassidy goes for the pinfall to take out the referee. Now, we end up seeing Orange Cassidy hit another big move on Pac, and we see Aubrey Edwards comes out for a pin, but it was a near fall. Then, of course, we see some things get taken down, some things where all three of these guys end up going after each other in some nice offensive curves. But eventually, Kenny Omega gets a hold of all of his championships, where it is the Impact World Championship belt, the TNA World Championship belt, the AAA Mega World Championship belt, and the AEW World Championship, where he ends up hitting both of these guys, especially Pac, with all of the championship belts. And this leads up to the pinfall victory and successful retention of Kenny Omega. And now it is time for Stadium Stampede 2. Yes, 2. We saw the first one last year, and it was the Elite versus the Inner Circle. And now the Inner Circle are back, and they are facing the Pinnacle. And if they lose, the Inner Circle is no more. Okay, so now that you guys know the dramatic stuff that happened leading up to the match, now let's get to the match. The Pinnacle, they show up in the stadium on the field in a limo, being accompanied by Tully Blanchard. But the Inner Circle say, let's take it up a notch. They came down on these little lanyards, just coming down to the field. And of course, we get right into it, where we see both of these guys, where Inner Circle ends up overwhelming the Pinnacle to where they all just spread out and disperse. We see first up Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara. And of course, Shawn Spears goes where all the chairs are because he is the chairman. And we see these two go back and forth, as eventually we see Shawn Spears end up taking control, and he thought he had Sammy as he handcuffed Sammy to the bar. But as, of course, Shawn Spears is looking for the rest of the members of the Pinnacle, we see Sammy Guevara find a pair of bolt cutters. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. But he finds a pair of bolt cutters to let himself free from the bar. Now we end up going over to Jake Hager versus Wardlow. This hoss fight, this made me excited, as of course Wardlow just showed off his physical presence. But of course the overall experience of Jake Hager is what ends up kicking in, as of course Wardlow was looking to set him up, Jake Hager up for a move to take him out, but we actually see Jake Hager get a nice choke slam on Wardlow, putting him through, I don't know what this wooden platform is, but it explodes when Wardlow goes through it. And of course, Jake Hager is just standing tall, big guy, you know what I'm saying? Roar, you know what I'm saying? That's what he did. But we end up going to the bar, and it is Santana and Ortiz with FTR, with Tully Blanchard and Conan as the DJ. And we see, of course, Tully Blanchard pour up a drink for all four guys, and then we get straight to the brawl, where we end up seeing Tully Blanchard try to help out when his guys were getting overwhelmed, but Conan comes in, and of course Santana and Ortiz take him out too. Then we go up to the chief office of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it is MJF. and it is Chris Jericho. We see pins. We see MJF really going after the left arm, the heavily wrapped and braced left arm of Chris Jericho. And then we actually see MJF Chris Jericho end up going out to the crowd area right where the nosebleeds are after Chris Jericho takes control when he stabs MJF in the forehead with the pin. And we also see him throw MJF through the door with all the glass. Now we see these two fight onto the nosebleeds, where inevitably Chris Jericho gets the upper hand and power bombs MJF to take him out through another wooden platform. Now, of course, we see Shawn Spears ends up looking for the guy still at the Pinnacle. But we see the biker club of the Inner Circle come out, and this brings Shawn Spears out to the ringside area. And of course, to meet him, it is Sammy Guevara, the Spanish God. You know what I'm saying? And these two go back and forth. But inevitably, it is a variation of the 450. I want to say is I don't know what it is. I really don't know. But he hits it. And it is a successful win as Sammy Guevara gets the pinfall for the Inner Circle. Now, as you can see, with me losing breath numerous times, me tripping over my words, and everything throughout this video, I really enjoyed this pay-per-view of Double or Nothing. All it did was just give me feels of WrestleMania and what a WrestleMania would look like. This is just phenomenal from the beginning of the show with the NWA Women's Championship match all up until the end of the show with the Stadium Stampede. Each and every individual played a very, very key role. We even know we're getting Kenny Omega versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry in 2 weeks on AEW. And we also found out that Mark Henry, he is now joining the AEW analyst team when AEW Rampage comes in August 13th, he will be the lead journalist. And on Dynamite this week, he'll be making his debut on TV for Dynamite. So, of course, I'm excited about that as well. But if you guys like this, of course, hit that thumbs up. If you guys want to keep up with all our content, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'm Kevin Jones, the Disciples of Wrestling, and that was Wrestling.